Here, I'm going to begin with this. I'm not going to pray yet. I'm going to pray in just a minute. I want to tell you real quick why we're doing this and a couple things that we need as we approach this. Before I even do that, let me introduce my beautiful wife. This is Courtney. I don't know how many of you have met her before. She is a blessing. I'm really, really grateful for her. All right, so what we wanted to approach singleness and talk about this for a few reasons. As I mentioned last week, I really feel like, and my prayer is that church is a place you can find your future spouse. And young adult ministry makes sense at church to be a place where you can, like, ground zero for a lot of those things. And for a bunch of different reasons, we're struggling with that. And there have been struggles for a long time, different ways. 6-7 years ago, a lot of people were getting married and probably too quickly, and there were other challenges they were facing. But we really want to say the quiet part out loud. We want to. You guys have a lot of questions, a lot of frustrations. We want to go through some of those and hopefully clear some things up to make this a place where more of you can go on dates and see if things work out for the better. For that to work, we're going to paint with some broad brushes, brush strokes. I say that wrong. My wife corrects me. And we need to, as a group, I want to challenge you to ask the Lord to give you ears to hear. And there's some things that we're going to say that don't apply to you. And there's some things that are going to apply right to you. And to know the difference might be something that you need to ask the Holy Spirit right now to say, hey, help me not be offended, because we're going to say some things that are offensive to some people, but that also are good and necessary sometimes to say, and but also give you ears to hear so that you can respond in the way that's going to build you up in the best way possible. Cool? Anything to add with that? To that? All right, let me pray. Lord, we ask that you would be here with us, that you would lead this, and you would be honored in it. We really do want to bless you. We really do want this to be a place where we can grow and mature spiritually, but in relationships as well. Lord, we want this to be a place where we can find people and find spouses, and you help it become that. In your name, amen. All right, so just so you know, a little background. Courtney and I actually met here at Foothills, but we had met in high school.
I thought he was weird.
Yeah, I probably was weird.
Spiky hair. I wasn't into spiky hair.
I had hair, and I had spiky hair. I can show you some pictures later, maybe, but it was pretty good. The gel, I should have bought stock in some of these gel companies. We didn't start dating until right before I turned 21. She was, 19 at that time. What that means is we knew each other. She thought it was weird. We didn't date. Then we did date. And and this was a place that we really consistently, throughout dating, we met up here, came to, at that time it was called Common Ground. And we had friends that actually set us up, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. But so I know a lot of you here, you want to find a spouse. I've had a lot of conversations about, I'd love to find someone to date. I'd love to find the right person to grow old with. And then I've heard a lot of frustrations and heard a lot of challenges. And then we took a survey, and about 45 of you took that survey in the first 2 days, and then we shut it off because Katie spent hours putting all the information together on a 4 or 5 page document, and so we had to cut it off. But and you guys shared with us a lot of the challenges that you're facing, and what we want to do is use that survey as a template as we break down different things that I think we can approach differently here, or at least different things that y'all are saying to me or to each other, but not to each other, big picture. Cool? So that's the plan. The surveys were helpful, and we did have some extremes. So we tried to push those out, but there were some real consistent themes throughout all of those things. I think that's a lot of the big things. So I want to start by defining some terms, and let's do this. Quite a few of you brought up what's allowed. Like, what are we allowed to do in dating? Can boys and girls be friends? What does that look like? So we go deep into detail every other year with the Define the Relationship series, a DTR series. We're not due to do that again for another year. It's been a year. But here's what I believe. You can be guys, you can be friends with girls. Girls, you can be friends with guys. But what friendship looks like is when you see each other here, when you see each other in ministry, when you see each other at church, when you're friends, you hang out. You can text each other, but it's not, for me, I believe it's like, oh, hey, I saw this at the store, and was like the small text here and there, not crazy long threads and hours where you're just one-on-one spending time together. Because if you, guy, and you, girl, are spending hours together consistently, I think that's crossing a line beyond just a friendship. Now, and I don't think we were created to do that well. I think you're going to catch some feelings, one of you, and probably both of you, but it's almost more dangerous if just one of you do, and then where are the boundaries and what does that look like? It gets complicated. So I think friendships are good in community. You can still, even if you, like, I want to say it's not exclusive. You can never be alone together. I do think we need to be above reproach, and I can't spend a ton of time on all of the details here because we have a lot of stuff to get through. But where I want to challenge you is, but you also can try to figure out, guy, is this girl someone I should long-term date? And go out on a date. And I don't think those have to be really big deals. So that's where within Christianity we've confused things a bit, where it's like, all right, we're friends, and now we're engaged. And it's like, whoa, hold on, slow down. And we do that, we still do that where it's like, once someone goes out on a date with someone, everybody else freaks out, like, oh my goodness, did you hear? And things escalate so quickly. And I want to create a culture where we don't speed things up that quick. Be friends, hang out. But if you are here and you see someone and you get to know them a little bit here in the Uno games or while playing volleyball or different ways, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, how to break through, and you want to say, hey, I'd love to take you out on a date and get to know you a little bit more. I think that's fine. And then after you do that for a little bit, then you can put a name on it, become boyfriend and girlfriend if things are going well, and move on. But those are kind of the three things. Friends, a couple like figuring out dates, and then boyfriend and girlfriend, or back to friends, and we don't make a huge deal out of that. You just keep going. Those are kind of the terms and areas I want to go. Anything? She's gonna jump in soon when we get to the juicy stuff. But yeah. Cool. No highlights yet. All right. So those are the terms. All right. Here's the big thing. The first thing, taking the first step. This is one of the topics. Who does it? Guys, girls. What does that look like? Survey says 30% of girls here at Young Adults have been asked out by a guy here at Young Adults. I was pretty surprised by that number. What I don't know and what we didn't ask is how many of those girls were asked out by the same guy. I'm curious. I have a follow-up next time. Because I think there's a few bold dudes. There might be one or two dudes that are too bold. We'll get to that in a little bit. But 30%, I don't think that's bad. And some people in here, you're like, well, look, it's not a big deal because I don't actually want to date. And I think apart from a few of you that are really working on something, you're lying. You might not want to deal with the drama of all of that, but I think for the vast majority of people, we do want to date. But it's complicated and it's difficult. So how do we do this? Here's what I want to encourage you. Guys, we want to challenge you to lead in a relationship, and it's ideal for you to lead in this way, for you to take the first shot. Find a girl and say, hey, I'd love to go get coffee with you. I'd love to take you on a date, and something like that. And again, I think we do need to talk about not making that such a big deal, where it's like, oh my goodness, like let me tell all my girlfriends and all of these things and stuff. But guys, ideally, you take that first shot. Girls, there are a lot of times when a guy doesn't know that you're interested. Now, some of you are like that's their problem and stuff. It might be, but it's also not bad for you to drop some hints. And by hints, I mean pretty sometimes direct is necessary, where you can let a guy know that, hey, it'd be great to, get to know you a little bit more. And guys, if a girl says that, she's not trying just to casually become friends with you. She's saying, and girls, can we make a deal? If you go to a guy and say, hey, it'd be great to get coffee sometime, what you mean is, ask me out on a date, bonehead, right? We're on the same page there? You have your mic on. Yeah?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That
Okay,
was
go
my
ahead.
highlight. It's okay.
Yeah.
As girls, we don't want to be the one, right? But if you suggest it, make a little suggestion, then it does put the ball in their court. And it, gives them a little help.
Yeah.
Lets them know. Because it can be hard for both. And David was like, yeah, the girl can just be like, what'd you say?
I'm not opposed to a girl saying, hey, so-and-so, if you ask me on a date, I would say yes. And then walk away.
Bold.
Okay.
So,
she's uncomfortable with that.
I
think
never done that.
I'm
I think
pretty
some of
dense
you
sometimes.
could.
I need some help.
Some of you might be comfortable doing that. I would have never gone on a date in my life.
So, but I think what we want to
help a little bit. Yeah.
And what we want to build up is an area where you could get coffee with someone, and at the end of that, if it doesn't work out, girls, where you're comfortable saying, "Hey, this was great, but I think we're best as friends." And guys, you say, "Okay," or guys, you say, "Hey, this was great. Nothing against you, but I think I'd like to just remain friends," or something like that. And here's the challenge. It takes confidence and boldness to take a shot and ask a girl out. It also takes a lot of humility and strength to not let a guy, if you go out on a date and he says, hey, we're gonna go back to being friends, for that not to be feel like a punch, or guys, for a girl to say, hey, not so much. And that's part of where we need to be. I mean, that's just saying it as we need to say it. If you go out on a date, a couple dates, and a girl says, hey, it's not working out, you should not own that to a degree where you feel like you're not worth dating anymore, and vice versa. We need to be in a place of maturity where we could say, okay, I'm going to take a week or two, and then I'm going to get back in the game, and we're going to push through.
And vice versa also, especially if you're a people pleaser. If you go on a date with a guy and then he keeps pursuing you and you're just like, I really see some red flags, and those red flags might be for you but not for someone else, then you don't have to keep saying yes either. You can say, hey, I think I'm good. Let's just
it's kind of rude to keep going.
You don't, because the truth is, it's honoring to the other person to stop so that they can find someone else, and so you can find someone else. You don't have to be stuck in anything for longer than you want to be, or that you feel like the Lord wants you to be, until you get married, and then you're stuck.
So one other challenge. So guys, we're saying take more shots. Now, you don't have to don't ask 6 girls out tonight. That would be a poor decision. But girls, a challenge that this is going to be a difficult one to break the culture. So if a guy asks you out on a date, whether you say yes or no, be careful how much you talk about it. Is this your highlight? I don't want to, you want to pick up on this?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Basically, if either of you get asked out, a girl gets asked out, and you want to go out, or you don't want to go out, or you end up breaking up or whatever, you want to be really careful about how you talk about that person. Because the truth is, that person is going to find someone else, and you're going to be looking for someone else, right? Or hoping that someone is looking for you. If that other person, there's a guy over here that's catching wind of you talking bad about this guy or being all silly about this guy, it's not going to look good for you, right? And so your reputation might be a little bit tarnished from that. So just be careful. Be honorable.
You don't want to be a gossip.
Yeah, you don't want to be a gossip. You want to be just above reproach in how you talk about anyone, right? Because it's only going to make, selfishly, you look better, right? To whoever is next. They won't have to worry about you if they ask you out on a date, you talking about them.
There is a little bit of a culture here where a guy will ask a girl out. Not enough, but we're getting there. But then the girl tells their girlfriends, and then that guy can't ask another girl out for a period of time, or he seems selfish or seems desperate, or it perpetuates. So then the guy won't ask more girls out, and the other guys don't want to do that because if they get turned down, then that's going to spread. So less guys are asking girls out, and then it hurts the whole dating culture, because you might be like, well, I already said no, it doesn't hurt me, but it might either hurt your friends it could work out for them and that guy, or another guy might be fearful to ask you out because they don't want the same thing to perpetuate. So basically, we got to be careful with our conversation, with our gossip. We got to be careful how big of a deal we make these, because the bigger deal we make the first asking someone out on a date, it's going to be harder. It's going to be less likely, less common as we do that. And remember, those first dates, you're not getting married. You're not engaged. You're getting to know each other. And that's something else that we need to be able to do here. Let me say a few other things about taking the first step. There's been some talk about look, I know everyone. I've known them for years. I've known them since kindergarten. Not that guy, all of that. People do change. And so I do want to challenge guys and girls to be open to dating someone that maybe you've known for 5 or 6 years, which could be awkward. You go up to someone, you say, hey, would you want to go out on a date? And you're thinking, the person being asked, I've known you for 7 years. Why are you asking now? But you are a different person, and that's a different person. And if we are shut off to everybody that we've known for a while, we are limiting the possibilities here. So again, I knew Courtney in high school. She knew me. We didn't know each other real well, but we knew of each other. The first time you heard of me was from, do you remember? Yeah, you can say it.
Natalie and Jenny.
Oh no, before that. Do you remember?
Rendezvous?
From my ex.
Oh, yeah.
So you're saying?
That is true.
Just so you know, that wasn't the most flattering person to talk about me.
I was in a camp cabin with her, too. The weekend, after they broke up or something.
Yeah, which was not a good weekend. So all that to say, there was quite a few things I had to overcome.
But then that also goes back to the point of not talking bad about who you break up with, because that could have tarnished my view of David, and he was a good guy, and she was kind of wacky. So,
All right, so summary real quick. I feel bad doing that. Look, she was great. We weren't destined.
Yes,
it wasn't going to work out. I don't want to go off on a tangent. But guys, take more shots. Girls, it's okay for them to take shots, but don't make a huge deal about it. Guys, if you're taking multiple shots and getting turned down consistently, I want you to talk to me. Because there's many of you who I'm like, dude, why aren't you asking her out? And there's some of you, I'm thinking, can you stop asking them out? So I want you, and that's the hard part about tonight and painting with broad brush strokes. So if you get turned down multiple times, talk to me. And girls, I'm not sure that I'm the best person for that. I might, but talk to me and I'll help point you towards someone good. You can talk to my wife. But we really want to, I'll shoot you straight. I'll say, hey, look, this is what I'm picking up. All right, strategy. Here are some opportunities you have to talk to people and take those shots. Tonight we have 9 squares and nachos. tonight is also like everybody's paying attention and talking about this, so you need to be like suavecito if you're going to do it tonight. But you can start conversations to get to know people. We have next week Friendsgiving. We have in 2 weeks a roundtable night where I force you to not sit with people that you know. Like you have to sit with at least half the table or people you don't know. Come on, you're welcome. All right. A couple weeks after that, we're going to do, a week after that, we'll do a after hours. A week after that is a Christmas party. There are opportunities for you to do this, to at least start conversations. Take them. Cool? All right, next thing. Interests in hobbies. This came up quite a bit. Survey says 29% of girls see similar interests as very important. That means 70% of you girls were like, I'm neutral or I don't care. 40% of boys see them as very important. And let me say this, everyone was at least neutral. There was no one actually that said they didn't care at all. Guys, we want girls to be interested in our hobbies because we naturally like doing stuff together. Girls, we like doing stuff together. When we started dating, we were both into photography, and it created a real easy way to hang out and do something. Guys, some of your hobbies, there are 4 girls on the planet that are interested in those things. If your hobby is something that no girl's interested in, you got to pick a different hobby or at least complement it with something else. And I want to challenge you to find a hobby that builds you up. Because just shooting you straight, there's some hobbies that girls say, oh, you're into that, and it doesn't have a good reputation, right? And then there's some hobbies that probably like way more than they should. But that is something that we got to consider, especially if that's important to you. If you're into, all right, let's just say it. If you're into anime, small percentage. So if that's important to you, you're limiting your target base. Fair? All right. Yeah.
When we first got married, into photography, surfing, like all these things. Then, all of a sudden, golf became this really big thing.
Yeah.
My experience of golf was, no offense to anyone, but just old men. Like, I don't know. It just, did nothing for me. I was not interested. Couldn't go with him. So it was really hard. Yeah. Now he's into hunting. That does something for him. I like that. It's really, he shoots stuff. How cool is that? So, an example of a hobby that works.
Now, girls, hobbies, guys are just going to, this is a thing for the rest of their lives. They're going to want to do stuff more so than I feel like most girls understand. Like, why? Yeah, okay, good. I got a head nod. And at some of that, it's going to be freeing. Like, go do your thing. So you got to balance that as well. If they have a hobby and it's not they're not doing heroin and stuff, you got to weigh out, if it's a hobby you don't like and it's not bringing them down and it's not just taking over their life, it might not be that big of a deal. And so finding the balance there.
Change. So even if you don't love it right now,
it'll
probably change.
I actually didn't own a firearm when we got married. And now I have, according to the government, none. So things change. But yeah, you want to balance that. Cool. So I think that's it for that one. I want to keep moving. You guys all right? Is this going all right? You guys can, if you feel like we say something really spot on, you can do snaps or something because I'm All right, standards. Let's talk about standards. Ooh. Are they too high? Are they just right? Are they not high enough? All right, it's good to have high standards. We live in a world of pagans. You gotta have high standards. In fact, if they're not a Christian, you shouldn't be dating them. Full stop, right? Now, here's the challenge, though. How do we have good standards that are still realistic? Because there are standards that I've heard that are like, there are just not very many people that can add up to that ever. But it's good to have good standards, so balancing those things, and also recognizing the difference between a standard of someone's character and a preference of your desire. And if you start bringing in your preferences into your standards, every time you do that, you're just shrinking the pool of opportunities and options you have. So, just a kind of a stupid example. I never dated a blonde until Courtney, right? Now that's a preference. Clearly, when I saw her, I was like, that's a dumb standard. But people will have standards that are preferences that will severely limit who they can talk to or something, and it's not a standard. It's a preference. And knowing those differences can help you at least go on some dates that you might not have gone on previously. Do you have any highlights yet? You can just interrupt there. So a few things. I want to highlight some preferences I've heard. Height. That's a preference. So girls, I know a lot of you want a guy that's taller than you. If you're really tall, it just makes it a little bit more difficult. You just call it what it is, and it's up to you. Is it wrong? We want you to be attracted to the person you're dating and hopefully your future spouse, but something like that, you have to decide how much is this going to weigh, and will it weigh, is this something that's going to keep me from going on a date? Because that's a big deal. If you're like, all right, I have a standard, they must be a Christian. I'm not going on a date with you if you're not a Christian. I'd prefer someone taller than me or that looks this way. But they check off all these other things. I'm willing to at least go on a date to get to know them and see if that's not really that big of a deal in the big picture. And that's going to open up, I think, a few more opportunities for you. And here's the hard part that I'm not sure how to say. Some of you have standards, and what you're going after is currently in a league that maybe you haven't reached yet. And so a good question that you have to ask is, are you currently in the league of the standard that you are searching for? And if you're not, are there things that you can do to better yourself so that you could get that person? Or, like, what is there? What are we talking about? Now, let me be clear. If you're, like, 10s in the look department, if you're a 6, I don't think that's out of the question, that you can, get someone that's beyond your league in those terms. I keep looking, I'm spreading my eyes around everywhere, just so you know. These are the things that we got to talk about, right?
Because there's a lot more than just looks that come
yes.
with all of that.
Yeah,
like
way more.
The full package.
So I just think, is this where I said that part about me? No, not yet. I just feel like there's more than just one thing, but you want to ask collectively, are you building yourself up to be someone are you becoming the person that you're looking for is who they're looking for? And if not, you got to do some work. Or you're going to have to change your standards, which honestly in this area, I would say do the work so you can, because everyone wins in that. Cool? All right, let's talk about, so those standards. If you have questions, find me afterwards. We're on page 3 of 5, so we're doing okay. But I want to pick it up. Let's talk about age real quick. Age. All right, 18 to 20-year-olds. I know you want a spouse. You want to find someone. And I just want to tell you, if you're 18 to 20, you don't have to avoid this, but I want you to understand that you're not if you're 18, 19, it's not the end of the world if you haven't found someone. You got time. It's okay. 20, you're going to be fine. In fact, who I was at 18, I'm very grateful we didn't start talking at that time. At 19, I'm very grateful. It was at the end of no, I was almost 21. It was good. I needed the time, okay? And so age-wise, 18 to 20, my big thing is it's okay to be patient, don't stress. With that said, we're adults. So if you're 18 and you're dating a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, it's not the end of the world. I don't think that's a big deal. If you're 17, don't do it, and you best not do it here. I'm going to talk to you. But by the way, we're not sleeping with each other either, because biblical standards still, all right, above reproach. But a few years, we're adults. And the older you get, the bigger that span can be, you know? And also, girls typically, you want to find a guy that can lead, provide, and protect. Men, you are called to lead, provide, and protect. So usually, it makes more sense for the guy to be a few years, or if anyone's going to be older, usually it makes more sense for the guy to be older, because then he's more established to do those things. But a strong dude might be able to handle a girl that's a year or two older or a little bit more. And, you know, that's not a principle. It's, you know, yeah.
I also want to just chime in. I dated someone a little bit older than me, just expecting, like, you know, he's older, he's got to have his stuff together. And then realized he didn't necessarily. So we can put that opposite twist on age too, and just assume, like, oh, as girls, like, oh, he's older, like, or write off someone who is younger because they don't have their stuff together. But then I met him significantly younger than the other person, and he was a much better catch. I mean, obviously, I caught him. So just with that, it goes both ways. So just be aware.
I'm older than you, but less
like
old.
A year or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, moving on. Drive, leadership. From our survey, girls, the financial stability of the guys you're looking for is really important to you. Not one girl said they didn't care. Guys, you didn't care nearly as much whether the girls were financially stable. That makes sense if we're called to lead, provide, and protect. But when it came to career plans, it was real similar to that breakdown, which again, girls are looking, dudes, for someone that could do those things, that can provide for them. So the question is, dudes, are you building that up? And there's a couple ways to do it. You don't have to arrive, but you have to either know where you're going or be diligently pursuing figuring that out. Yeah.
And it's going to mean a lot if you buy a girl's coffee to show her that, or something like that. Pay for her dinner. Like, those are just really nice things to show her, like, I care about doing this for you. Yeah. And that will translate to her heart as, oh, maybe he'll be a provider someday.
Another thing, though, that I hear all the time from ladies, and that was reflected in this, is guys, not only do they want you to be pursuing a career or be working hard, they want to know that you're going to be able to take care of them, but they also want to know that you're serving somewhere, or you're doing something to invest in something other than yourself. So getting involved in ministry. I've talked to a lot of girls that are like, so-and-so, they're not serving anywhere. Now, those things can, for seasons, not fully be compatible. There are seasons where you might have a legitimate reason where you're like, I can't serve for this semester because I have work and school. But I think those are the exceptions. And I think the heart behind a guy who really is willing to do those things is typically shown. Do you want to talk about that girl part?
In terms of careers, it can be hard as women to focus so much on school and work and then entering that career that years go by and you're so invested in it that you actually had no time to date. You didn't have any free time. So just being aware of that and balancing your school schedule, your work schedule, to make sure that you have a little time. You don't want to have 4 years of college and then 2 years of master's or whatever go by, and then you're like, oh, there just wasn't time. So just, you want to be smart, you want to learn and grow, and that is attractive too, but not making it everything for too long of a season.
Yeah, and I would encourage you ladies to, the type of career you pick and go after. If you want to have a family, if you want to invest in that long term, then picking a career that's going to work together with those things. I don't think there's, some talk about girls just buy your time until you get married. Don't build yourself up. Don't pursue college. And I don't necessarily agree to that, but I do think that if you're getting a doctorate and doing a whole bunch of school loans for something that's going to make it hard for you to eventually raise a family, that's something that you should consider, you should think about. And the whole idea, there's also, saying the quiet part out loud, this talk about girls, don't build yourself into something that's going to be intimidating to the dudes. And I think there's quite a few issues there. One, dudes, what does that look like for us? Like that we're getting, if girls, you have a demanding job, that's going to be something that you're going to have to balance with husband, if you're going to have a family, all of those things. And it might limit some of the guys, but I think guys, we got to know what we're doing, what we're building up, who we want to pursue, and all of that I think is a big conversation. And I don't want to write off girls. Let me say this. I think if you are like real studious, I think nursing and you want to get a career, nursing is great because you can make good money. You can, when you have kids, go per diem. And so you can still just go in once or twice a month and still make decent money and raise your family, and then you can pick it up afterwards. But careers like that. Now, I would never want to do nursing or medical stuff. No, thank you. Biology class was enough. So I'm not saying go do that. But that, you see the mentality behind that? Something where you have skills. You don't have to put pause on developing who you are. But having the goal in mind is I think, important to consider. Cool.
And I think just one more thing. I've been a somewhat stay-at-home mom for a long time. You can go into marriage thinking that too. You can go into even a dating relationship and throw that on the table as I would really like to stay at home. The reality is we live in San Diego. So doing something, not just being like, well, I'm just going to be a barista forever until I get married or whatever.
No offense, baristas.
Yeah, baristas are great. Sorry.
Yeah.
But, just expecting also to not do anything could be a problem.
Yeah, we've seen that cause a lot of issues.
I want to help when I can. He has been so gracious knowing that I can't help a lot. We have so many kids.
And you've been gracious knowing that while here I get paid the big buck, we're not we know we're running after something that is attainable, knowing I do ministry. It's just a little bit different. I'm not complaining, but it's different, realistic. Yeah. So having those healthy expectations, and girls, please, guys, please don't just assume that every girl's going to be a stay-at-home mom, because most people I know aren't, And
even if they are, they're still doing something to help out,
All right, let me say real quick, another way to connect, another way to break the ice is through ministry as well. So guys, you could step up in leadership and drive by serving somewhere, and you might find your spouse there. By the way, she used to spy on me when I was working at Youth Venture before I knew she was looking into, who I was and all that. So
but
ministry.
It started because I was just observing him.
Yeah,
it really did.
Yeah. All right, we got to go. We're making decent. I'm going to pick it up a little bit. All right, taking care of yourself. This is one that kept coming up. This is another one that's like, oh man, I don't want to talk out loud. But here we go. Appearances, I'm going to throw under this taking care of yourself. All right, guys and girls, y'all were the same basically on this. 60% said they were neutral on appearances, with a third saying it really did matter. And there were 2 guys that said they didn't care at all. And I think they're liars. So appearances matter. And appearances, I want to tell you, go beyond just looks. So let's first talk about hygiene. If you show up at young adults and you want to find a spouse, it's good to take a shower. It's good to know if you smell, it's the good type, but not too much of the good type.
Yes.
Don't bathe yourself in perfume or cologne.
That's not cute.
I want to say this.
Balance.
It's the balance between you don't have to spend 2 hours getting ready for young adults. You've never been someone that wears a lot of makeup, and you're beautiful, and I noticed her, but it's not something that she's not spending a lot of time to make sure that she's all dolled up, but you take care of yourself. And knowing that balance, I think, is important. So guys, girls, wearing just not just whatever, and throwing on stuff like it looks like you rolled out of bed. Guys, if you're growing out your beard, there's that awkward stage where it's all but combing it or keeping it short or doing something where it just looks presentable, look like you want to be here, I think that goes a long way. Cool? And clearly there's that balance between, we don't want to be immodest. In fact, I think that goes the other way where it starts turning people off, and you don't want to look like a bum, finding the in-between. I think we both, I'm not the strongest, tallest, crazy, model and stuff, but I won this girl, and I think it's just you do something, little bit helps. All right, let's talk about the one that I don't want to talk about, but we got to talk a little bit about, and that's weight. And weight is complicated. It is very complicated. And I think it's complicated in ways that I didn't know it was complicated before prepping for this night. And I want to say this. There's people here who are all different sizes, shapes, all of that. Some who want to lose weight and could without a crazy amount of effort. Some who could put in all the effort in the world, and there's other factors than eating right and working out. There's hormone stuff, there's other things going on, genetics. And so when we paint with broad brush strokes about weight, we're in dangerous territory. And I think there's some of us, I'm in this where I'm skinny, and it's not because it's just my genetics. I don't deserve, I didn't do anything special. So for me to write off some people for things I'm not even, it's just not right. It's more complicated than that. So here's what I want to say. It might be more complicated for you, and that's who I'm talking to. It also, you might be looking for someone and you're writing off people that it's more complicated to them than you know it is. And so not writing off just groups of people because they don't fit the exact weight standard that you have, I think is a healthy thing to consider. We don't know what other people are dealing with. And your body's going to change. You want to talk about that?
The truth is, no matter what, your partner's body's going to change, especially for women. If you have children and you're blessed with children, it could go one way or the other. It's just going to change. So to write someone off because they're, even too skinny or not the right size, whatever, once you have a baby, hormones shift, and it can shift you one way or the other. And you're going to be married. And so it's just not a valid reason to write someone off, I think. For someone who struggles with being overweight, their hormones could shift when they get pregnant, and they could drop.
It's crazy. Well, I just think you could date someone, get married, and after 3-4 years have a baby, and body's different, and you're with someone for a long time. So clearly we want you to be attracted to the person you're dating and stuff. but I think attraction there's a lot in that. And I think if you're going through standards and lists and someone hits all the marks, but has a different body type than you would go to first, then I would encourage you to at least consider still going on a date and seeing if it's not that big of a factor. I just think that there's a lot in play there.
And I think at the end of the day, what each part wants is someone who's healthy and who desires to be healthy, because when you are healthy, you're telling the other person, like, hey, I'm gonna be here for a while. Like, I want to stick around, I want to show up. I want to do all the things with you. Vice versa. It goes both ways. So just making the healthy choices today, it means a lot to the other person. And we've been through that where I'm eating too much sugar or whatever, and it's like a slap in the face to him. Like, you're going to get sick. You're going to, you're not taking care of you. I want him he needs to eat lunch. He needs to drink less coffee. Sometimes he works on those things too. There's just things you want to... I know. But you want
flavored
someone...
water.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started. You want someone who wants, to be healthy, right?
Yeah.
Because it means a lot to the other person.
There's one last point I wanted to say on that. Go ahead.
You also, if you are watching your weight or watching what you eat, it's really annoying and off-putting to be obsessive about it too, right? That is not very attractive. So in general, just that need for balance, just
balance is good.
Make your healthy choices.
Yeah, and on that balance note, the other swing is, as someone pointed this out earlier this week, is gym culture. There's some real unhealthy things about that too. So it's like, we make a big deal over here, and then that sends people over here to the gym culture, which we make a big deal about. And it's like, So finding that balance in between it is good, and we want healthy. Just pursue healthy and run from there. I want to say this. If you have questions about this, like appearances, looks, how you dress, all of that, go to a close friend and just to the side and say, hey, shoot me straight. What can I work on? What are areas that I can do better? And if they're a good friend, they're going to let you know. And some of you might not want to do that with weight. You might want to go to wise counsel or something, because that can just be an especially sensitive topic. But we want to have close friendships where you could go to each other and be able to say, like, hey, I need someone to speak truth in life. Will you do that? Hopefully you have friends like that. And if you don't, then hopefully you can find some and build that up here as well. All right, we're going to go over the last point, and then there's a half a point, ninja quick. Friends. Friends is another big topic. In fact, this was the topic people were most passionate about on the survey. 85% of people saw healthy friendships as really important. That's a big deal. Not one person of the people surveyed said it's not important to them. And so a few things about friendship. First off, the word cliques came up a lot. And I want to say often healthy friendships look like cliques. I wouldn't define them as cliques. I think cliques are really inward, and they don't let other people in, and that's a problem. So some of you guys have healthy friendships, but I would caution you, how often are you inviting people outside of that friendship into conversations, just even conversations here? If it's not common, then I want to challenge you to do that. Don't be inward facing. With that said, friendships can make or break in a bunch of ways. I've talked to plenty of people who don't ask a girl out or a guy out on a date because their friends are unhealthy. And they're like, they seem good, but all their friends seem bad, and so I'm not going over there. That's concerning. And you should ask yourself, are the people you're surrounding yourself with building you up? And it's fair to say, and what's our reputation? Are we known as a clique? Are we known as foolish or boneheaded or whatever it is. And there should be room for growth there. But another thing that came up multiple times, and girls, this was mainly directed at you, is guys said, we can't ask a girl out because at young adults, they never leave their friends. And, and I think there's something there. Now, guys, you got to look for opportunities, but the hard part is you don't want to be like, oh, she's running to the bathroom. I got to run. You know, that's weird. That's awkward. Don't do that. But finding creative ways, girls, where you aren't just here and you show up with your friends, you sit with your friends, you talk with your friends, you leave with your friends. Why didn't guys talk to me? And guys, it might get to a point where you just have to peel one away and say, hey, can I talk to you for a quick minute? But girls, man, that's an extra level of, we're just adding a slight difficulty. If you're like, well, pursue me, make it happen. You could do that, but I'm just saying what the survey says. All right, cliques, friends, talked about that. Friends can bring you up or down. We were set up because of friends that knew us well, literally said, someone came to me and said, David, I know who you're going to marry.
Which I don't recommend saying that. That is very bold. Don't do that.
Very bold. But they knew us well and it worked. All right, strategy. Whether you're looking, whichever side of this, show up to the coffee bar a little bit early. Stay a little bit later. Go out, separate from your friends a little bit. Do things. Invite someone, host a Uno game, or do something where you invite people. We used to play, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I was like, how did we all meet each other? We used to go to this coffee shop, which was open late, and play this card game called Rummy. I think it's a great game because it's kind of
She's
slow.
Anti-Uno, people.
Uno is just so aggressive. You need a game where you can actually talk in between and get to know someone instead of just like, oh, that's a really insanely competitive guy. I don't want to be with them. I'm just kidding. But you can play Uno if you want. We played Rummy, and I was like, it was actually a really great game for facilitating some small talk discussion, like getting to know someone in the in-between. It took a long time, so you were there a long time. And I was thinking 4 or 5 marriage relationships came out of our season in college group of playing that
Rummy
game.
Games. It
So
might be the Rummy. Yeah.
So you can invite. My point in that is create a game night. So it's hard to be like, hey, let's go to coffee, whatever. If you want to get to know someone, hey, I'm having a game night. Come and just make it almost a regular thing if you want. That's what we did, and we got to know a lot more people that way. It was so fun.
All right, so let me point out 2 side topics. So we've gone over friends, leadership, driven, motivation, all that, appearances, all the stuff, introductions, how it starts. A couple side things just real quick. First off, some of you struggle because you're really overcoming some past relationships, rejections, things like that. And the truth is you need healing. If there's a wound there, if there's a hurt, you do need healing. And I don't want to encourage you to move too quickly, but I also don't want you just to be stuck in that wound or that hurt. Pursue healing. Seek counsel. Seek wisdom so that you can get to the other side of that. Don't just expect it to come with time, because often it doesn't. You need to do something. And look, the ending of a relationship isn't always bad. Sometimes it's what's necessary. But it might still take some time to recover or move on or change, and that's okay. So we want to balance those things where you don't need to move too quickly, but make sure that you are pursuing healing in that. And the last thing I want to say is this, and this is going to sound like your inconsistency in attendance does make a difference here. And it does in a couple ways. One, you can't meet a bunch of people if you're only here every so often, but they can't meet you. And there is this idea of, well, look, I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to go to a different young adult group, and then a different young adult group. But my pushback against that is you're only seeing people for a short term. You're not really building relationships and investing. So I wouldn't do this hop, skip, and jump thing too quickly or casually. I think it's important to have roots somewhere. And if your roots are here, then you could go visit other things, but don't do that at the cost of this, because that person might be here when you're not. That person might be trying to get to know you, and to them, you're inconsistent, or they don't get to know you that well, and you might be missing someone in the first place too. Plus, I would love if you're here every week. That's the weird part of it, me saying that. But let's just call it what it is. If we're not here often, then you're going to be missing out on conversations and getting to know people to a new level. Yeah. Anything else you want to add? Of just that last point. Are you going to say something after that? I would encourage you in this. If you're interested in this, The Sacred Search, I think, is an excellent book. I'd encourage you to read that. And it talks about in that why you marry is more important than who you marry. And that's a really important concept to understand as you look for who you're going to marry. So go ahead.
I think just going back to all of the points we've made, like if you think about that why, and you even write some things down based on that instead of the perception that you had before maybe, or some of your standards that might not be based on character and things like that, just write down that why and see if there's anyone in the future then who could fit that why, instead of just what you have had in your mind for no apparent reason other than it's been there for a long time.
Yeah. All right, guys, I hope that's helpful. I hope that you can take away something that is going to help instigate just more conversations, hopefully more dates down the line, maybe something more. And so let me pray real quick. Now we have KJ, nachos ready? Just about ready. 9 Squares ready. I hope after I pray, you hang out, you have a good time, and yeah, I guess that's it. Let me pray. Lord, I thank you, Father, that you are a God who wants us to do doctrine dives about who the Holy Spirit is, and you also, Lord, I truly believe you want us to have conversations about stuff like this as well, and do it well, and do it right. And God, I pray that you would really speak to each and every person in this room individually and highlight the things that they should take home from this. Lord, if there's areas of hurt, even if there's areas of hurt that Courtney and I, we hit a nerve during this time, Lord, we pray that you would come in and minister. And we don't want to run away from truth. We don't want to be intentionally offensive for no reason. We want to position ourselves to be blessed by you and to be a blessing to others. Help us to do that. And Lord, may you bless this to be a community where people can meet their spouses. In your holy name, amen.